Witch's power activate. Witches! I was going to wear this hat just for this one scene, but I think it suits me. I'm going to stick with it. Hi everyone, welcome to the album discussion of, you guessed it, Witches. Witches is an album which consists of 11 songs and was brought out in 2015, and for now is their newest album to date. Front, inside, and back. Witches is completely based off the Salem Witch Hysteria, which is a historic event that happened in 1692. As you know, I don't know much about history, but for once I did research! So what I'm going to do is give you a brief summary of the Salem Witch Hysteria, and based on that I will go through every song and see what it is based on, because the album is completely based on the Salem Witch Hysteria, and every song is like a part of it. It's like a chapter of the story. It's not chronological, so I will just go through the songs and tell you what it is based on. As I said, it'll be a brief summary, so leave that in the comments below if I forgot anything and if you find another link to a song and the history. If you want to read up on the story of Salem Witch Hysteria, Kimberly made a post on the Untitled website with all the links that she has used for the research for witches. So it is oneidoll.com/witches-lyrics. There are the lyrics of witches and also the research links. Storytelling power activate. The Salem Witch Hysteria is a story of 19 people being convicted and subsequently hung for being a witch. Also, one man, about 80 years old, was pressed to death by stones. Also, a couple of people died while they were in prison awaiting their conviction or execution. It started with 3 girls, namely Elizabeth Parris, who was 9 years old, Abigail Williams, who was 11 years old, and Anne Putnam, who was also 11 years old. And these girls started displaying bizarre behavior. A doctor took a look at them and he could find no physical problem. So the people concluded it must be the work of Satan and that these girls were afflicted by witches. This was in January 1692, and in February and January, obviously, the people started praying for the witches to go away and for the girls to heal, but that didn't happen. So they pressed the girls until they finally confessed who the person was that afflicted them, and they named 3 women. These 3 women were Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba. And all 3 of these women were like outcasts of society, so it didn't surprise him very much. Both Sarahs denied being a witch, but Tituba confessed that she had seen weird things and that she was approached by a tall dark guy, and he offered her a book which had a contract that if she signed it, he would give her everything she wanted, and she signed that book. All 3 women were found guilty, and Sarah Good was the one who said, "I'm no more a witch than you are a wizard. Take my life and God will give you blood to drink." But it didn't end there. In March, Martha Corey was indicted by the girls of being the one who afflicted them, as well, of being a witch. Martha Corey was someone who was very into society, who was very famous and a very good person in society, very well known. So the people saw that it could be anyone who could be a witch. It doesn't have to be an outcast, it could also be one of their own. Obviously, Martha Corey denied being a witch, but she was found guilty anyway. Her husband, Giles Corey, was also later on accused of being a witch. And he refused to enter a plea of being guilty or not guilty, and so he wasn't hung, but he was pressed with stones until he would enter a plea, but he did not do that, and he died of being pressed by stones. In May, there was a governor named William Phips, and he came up with a special court of oyer and terminer, and this court caused the hangings. This court decided if you were guilty or not, and if you were guilty, you were hung. And the first person who was hung, because she was found guilty, was Bridget Bishop, and she was hung on June 10th. And after that, all the other people, the people I already said, were hung after that. 5 people were hung in July, 5 people were hung in August, and 8 in September. And September, at the end of September, is when this finally stopped, when the last hangings occurred. The wife of the same governor, Phipps, was accused of being a witch, and because of that, he prohibited further arrest and he released many witches, and the Court of Oyer and Terminer was dissolved at October 29th. The witches were all hung in a special place called Gallows Hill, where they were hung from a branch of a tree. Now that you know what happened at the Salem Witch Hysteria, it's time to look at the album Witches of One-Eyed Doll. The first song of that is Ember. And Ember describes basically how the girls that were afflicted would feel, because it is said that they didn't have control of their own body. If the witch moved in a certain way, they would move that way too, even though they didn't think of doing that. They just did it unconsciously, subconsciously, not consciously. English. In the beginning of the song, you hear pretty softly, you hear someone preaching something. And that is material from a notebook of Samuel Parris. Samuel Parris was a prosecutor who convicted the witches, and he was also the father of one of the girls that was afflicted. As I said, as soon as the girls were afflicted and they saw that it was no physical problem and they thought it was the work of witches, they started praying. And that is what the second song is about, prayer. It's the people of Salem town praying for the girls to return to their original states, to not be afflicted, and to give them, to get the strength to convict and murder witches. Black in the Rye, the third song of the album, is a very peculiar song because it is based on a theory that was published somewhere in the 1970s in a science magazine. And it is a theory of how this came to be, that the people became so crazy for these witches to be killed and that these girls started getting afflicted. The theory is that there is a substance in the ground which is called rye, and rye is also used in like bread and stuff. So the theory is that the afflicted girls ate this bread with the rye in it and subsequently became afflicted. What rye does is make you very susceptible to like theories, and so as soon as somebody said that, oh, it must be witches, must be the work of Satan, then everybody believed that and they became crazy to stop this. The rye poisoned the people of Salem town into thinking that witches must be killed and witches exist and they shouldn't. A Rope for Mary was the first song that Kimberly wrote, and this is the basis of Witches. Everything is written around it. This was the first song. It was because Kimberly read about the story of Mary Esty. She was a witch that was hung in the Salem Witch Hysteria. This is what intrigued Kimberly to read further and write more songs. Mary Esty was also called Good Wife Esty, so that is what I Was a Good Wife is based on, probably. This song is basically like a honoring song to Mary, to remember her. Like the entire album is to remember all of the witches. I want to talk about the chorus because that has a lot in it. Feed your babies to the witches tree. There is a witches tree that was very special because it was a tree that went up, it grew up, and then it split in two, and it grew back to each other and became one tree again and then went up again. So there was like a circle in it, like it split and then came back together. And the people called this the witch's tree because it was like magic that this kind of thing could exist. They passed babies through the hole of the witch's tree to protect them from witch magic. Cart your fears down Prison Lane. Prison Lane is the lane that needed to be traveled to get to Gallows Hill, where the witches were hung. To get to Gallows Hill, they put the witch on a cart and they traveled with the cart to the Gallows Hill, and that is where she was hung. So cart your fears down Prison Lane, because witch is fear. I am your fear, and you can cart me down Prison Lane to Gallows Hill. Then the last sentence seems a bit sarcastic to me, maybe I read it wrong, but say your prayers till you kill again. People keep praying and praying for the witch to disappear, but it will remain in their heads that witches exist, so they will kill again and again and again. It doesn't matter how much you pray. And obviously a rope for Mary is like the rope for hanging her. More Weight is also a very special song. It starts off with like frog croaking that they actually recorded and used because Kimberly and Jason heard these frogs and they thought it was like so magical, like they wanted to be recorded or something, so they recorded it and put it in the song, and it works very well. More Weight is about Giles Corey, whom I told about, is the guy that was pressed to death by stones because he didn't want to enter a plea of being guilty or not guilty because he thought it was nonsense anyway. The bridge part of the song is like the people who condemned him and the people who put him to his death, that they tell the children that if you do not listen, if you do not do what they want, if you do not enter a plea, then you will be pressed to death. So let it be a lesson. Remember is the only instrumental song of the album, and it is very, very pretty. It is, remember, obviously, it is to honor the people that died because of this hysteria. When I bought the album Witches, it came with a booklet that was signed, and the booklet had like artwork for every song, and there was also artwork for Remember, and next to that artwork was a list of names of the people that died in the Salem Witch Hysteria, and I will just show it here. It is done by Aaron Bordner, who is an amazing comic artist. So these were the people who died in the Salem Witch Hysteria, and this song is honoring them. Witch Hunt is a song that obviously describes the witch hunt, the people that wanted to hunt the witches down to kill them. It describes that they see witches and that kind of thing and that they want to kill them. The song also mentions Oyer and Terminer, which is the court of Oyer and Terminer, which I mentioned in the summary. And in the bridge of the song, they go to Gallows Hill and they hang the witch and they swing her back to hell, which is a great, great metaphor. Stillness, I will go on a record, Stillness might be the greatest song that One Idol has ever created, and may even be the greatest song that has ever been created in the universe. Stillness describes the thoughts that run through the head of the person that will be hanged within a minute, like what she thinks before her death. The song oozes relief. It's over, the end of pain. The tears I have cried are gone now. It is a freeing song. The body will be hung and it will swing softly from the branch, from the rope. For the first few minutes, Stillness is like this really soft, melodic, magical song. It is peaceful. And then after that, the song, like in a snap, it grows really intense. For me, that is the moment she is hung. And she will be still then. She will hang still, swing softly, and it is over. It is the moment of death. Afflicted is the longest song of the album and also very different from the rest because it's kind of like synth-like. It's kind of like pop-like. It's different than all the punk metal songs, to me at least. This song has a lot in it. The chorus and the bridge are from the perspective of the afflicted girls, while the rest is from the perspective of probably Tituba, because she described when she was arrested that she had seen a tall black man and she had to write her name in a book to get everything she wanted, and that is exactly what it describes. And at the end of the bridge, it says, "May the rivers flood with the blood of the damned," which is a sentence from the second song, Prayer. So it all comes together in this song. This song is kind of like a summary of what happened during the Salem Witch Hysteria, which is probably why One Adult chose this song to make a music video, because they made a music video, and that music video, bro, that music video. The song is about 6 minutes long, but the video is about 8 minutes long, because the first 2 minutes are kind of like introducing you to the Salem Witch Hysteria and that kind of thing. But the entire video shows everything I talked about in the summary, because it shows Kimberly being the witch, it shows the afflicted girls, it shows Junior being a prosecutor and convicting her to her death, it shows her being hung, and at the end it shows ghosts that are the ghosts of the witches that were already hung before Kimberly was hung. And she dances with the ghosts because they found peace. So it is brilliant summary of all the songs of witches combined into one video for Afflicted. Sorrow is obviously the shortest song of the album because it is not even a minute long. It's about 50 seconds long, and it is kind of like a reprise of A Robe for Mary. It even says A Robe for Mary in the lyrics, but it is like after the Salem Witch Hysteria died down, and it is from the perspective of the people that were killed because of this hysteria. We were slain by hate, by fear. It describes the hopelessness that they must have felt because it didn't matter what they said, they would be convicted and found guilty anyway. The Ghost of Gallows Hill is a perfect song to end the album on. It really sounds like an ending song, like this is closing off this story. It is meant to, once again, honor the witches of the hysteria. The entire album is meant to honor them, but especially this song, it blatantly says, "Remember so that we may ever last." Nobody is allowed to forget this. We should always remember that this happened, and so that it never may happen again. The song says, "By moonlight we dance on Gallows Hill," which is also done in the Afflicted video. The ghosts dance with Kimberly by moonlight on Gallows Hill. Remember the quote that I said from Sarah Good before she was found guilty, before her death? The song says, "I swear to you, O holy killer, I'm no witch if you're no wizard. You will drown in guilty blood long after my body is thawed." And this is exactly the quote, but like more in a song way. But this is the quote that Sarah Good said, and they used this quote in the song, which is genius. So I know I didn't share much of my opinion on the songs because I literally love every song of this album. There is not one song that I love more than the others. Well, maybe Stillness. But Afflicted is also really good. And I'm starting to like More Weight. And The Ghost of Gallows Hill, I always sing that from the top of my lungs whenever I hear it. Just to honor these witches. And also because I like it. So if I would share my opinion on these songs, it would be like, oh, I like this. Oh, I like this. Oh, I like this. I think it is very good, and it is very important that this album was made because, well, okay, I can defend myself by saying that I live in the Netherlands, but I had never heard of the Salem Witch Hysteria, and now I know everything about it because of this brilliant album. So I think it is very good that this album was made to let the people know that this happened, and so that they may never forget it. So the only perfect way I can end this video is by saying, "Warning, beware. May this never happen again." Thank you for watching, and leave down in the comments below whatever you want to share about this album or the Salem Witch Hysteria. I read everything, and if I can, I will comment on everything. So I would love to read it. Well, I'm going to take my leave here. Bye bye!